to explain what's going to be good about that. But now, in the LBC studio, the time is 12:30. Well, we'll carry on taking your calls about how much tax we should pay on our homes and all of that. I suspect this will rumble on right up to the day of the general election. But another big breaking news story has been, I think Boris has decided to make much more clear his commitment to cycling by introducing a lot of cycling-only lanes which will be physically separated from the rest of traffic on the streets. Some people have started, almost all London's main business organisations have said this could be very damaging to the London economy, cause a lot of congestion. I suspect David may have a genuine concern about some of this as well.
Well, let me just say, look, we're going to have a couple of people on who can see London as a whole. I see my bit of London, but I travel every day and a lot of the time walking, as I did I usually walk into the studio from my house in St Catherine's Dock to get here so it's not like I'm guzzling. I don't actually drive a car, so I get in a cab if I'm not going in any other way. But you see, you take the highway, right, and you take Thames Street, upper and lower, you take Tower Hill, and you take the Victoria Embankment. Now that is the main corridor whereby people get in and out of London, central London, from the east. Now, my understanding of this proposal is that it's 2 lanes each way at the moment, with a cycle lane in part. The cycle lane is going to be expanded effectively to take up one of the 2 traffic lanes each way. So that principal artery in and out of London, central London from the east, is going to be down to 1 lane each way. Now, that is going to be a disaster, because most of the time we go along that road, even with 2 lanes, it's completely nose to tail. And I just think to myself, what's the point of that? And what it's going to mean is, for several hours a day, because people obviously cycle to work and they cycle back, several hours a day, there's going to be this wonderful blue-looking thing, which nobody will be in, while it will create, the congestion charge was supposed to stop congestion. And now we're going to reintroduce congestion by stopping even the existing roads from actually carrying proper traffic.
And it's coming from Boris. How amazing. He sounds like he's adopted one of my policies. Let's go quickly to Steve McNamara, who's the General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. In a minute, we'll hear from Andrew Gilligan, who's the mastermind behind Boris's cycling policy. But, Steve, does the taxi trade have some worries about all this?
Some worries, Ken. That's putting it mildly. Everything David's just told you is absolutely spot on about that particular section. But what this cycle scheme will do, London has got a major problem with air quality. Tower Hill is one of the air quality hotspots, and there's lots of others. This scheme, we've dubbed it sort of Barmy Boris's barking mad bike scheme. And what it's going to do, it's going to gridlock Tower Hill. They've banned lots of turns at Tower Hill. You're not going to be able to turn onto it. From the embankment, you're not going to be able to turn left onto Westminster Bridge or turn right from Westminster Bridge. It's going to involve lots of detours, lots more stationary traffic, lots more slow-moving traffic. All of this is going to further worsen the atrocious air quality in London. You know, idling diesel vehicles are going to create more PM10s, more PM2.5s, more NOx. And the cycle lane is only going to be used, rightly as you say, a few hours each day. But the key point here is that Andrew Gilligan will come on in a moment, and he'll tell you that cyclists make up 24% of the traffic in the morning rush hour. He'll also tell you that traffic is markedly down on Upper and Lower Thames Street. But as David just rightly said, it's at a standstill for most of the day, so quite knows how they come to that. But of course the point is, he's counting a bike the same as a bus. So if you've got a car or a builder's van or a lorry or a bus with 50 people on, that gets the same priority as a guy on a bike.
And, Steve, there's other stuff that I suspect...
Hang on, no. Steve, stay with us. We've had all the odium poured on him, and he's not had a chance to say anything yet. The Mayor's cycling advisor, Andrew Gilligan, joins us. Andrew,
hello,
defend yourself.
Well, look, I've got to say, what David says about this scheme is just wrong, and I think he's got less cause for worry than he thinks. It's not going to take up 2
Relieve me, Andrew.
Look, David, let me finish. No. You said there something that is completely wrong. It's not going to take out 2 traffic lanes. There's not going to be 2 cycle lanes. There's going to be 1. It's going to take out 1 of the 4 traffic lanes. So you've got your figures wrong by 50% there.
Yeah, but that means that one way it's only going to be a single lane.
That's right, and it's going to be 2 lanes the other way.
Which other way?
The eastbound direction is going to be 2 lanes in the westbound one. The result of that is that we've done some very detailed traffic modelling, and we have included the adjustments to the traffic lights we're going to do. And we found out that in the peak direction of the morning peak, that is the AM peak, going west, going towards central London from Parliament, from Tower Hill to Parliament Square.
Andrew.
Well, that's what the official traffic modelling says. Now, I grant you, there are bigger delays on the approaches on the highway. But there's only one significant delay, and that's on the highway coming in from East London into Tower Hill. So the delay is going to be east to Tower Hill. In central London, the average delay is only 1 minute 25 seconds. There are some, the delay from the journeys going westbound, because there's 2 lanes, actually going to be quicker.
The broad view at City Hall, and particularly amongst Tories, is that it's you that's driven this. It's, if anything, it sounds, like you must have had to bludgeon Boris into accepting it, and you're the driving force behind all this, because Boris's original blue lanes were just that, a bit of paint. You're turning into something that looks much more like my grand strategy from a decade ago.
Well, it's not me. It's TfL's scheme. They drew it up, and they, they did all the work on this. And there's been a team of probably 20, 30 people working on the 2 big superhighways for the last 18 months. And the idea that it's been...
And what's the democratic endorsement for that?
Is not true.
What's the democratic endorsement for that?
Boris was elected on a manifesto pledge to improve facilities for London cyclists, who, as Steve McNamara said, now make up a quarter of the traffic in central London.
But it's different improving facilities and actually
in the morning rush hour.
Reducing facilities for others in a city where a whole lot of London's wealth is created by people who want to move readily around between, say, the city and Mayfair. Where
well, I suppose that's the other thing I quarrel with that's the other thing I quarrel with your diagnosis, David. I mean, the fact is that hardly anybody drives into central London. You might, but you're in a tiny minority. Only 20% of all journeys in central London are made by private motor vehicle. 80% of journeys are made by public transport or on the bikes.
But I don't drive anywhere.
Time. Hold on,
Andrew,
the roads at the moment are dominated by the private motor vehicle, and it's about time we shifted the balance a bit towards the 80%.
Steve,
and when is this
hang on, let's get Steve's been from the General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers, been listening to all that. Has that persuaded you a bit, Steve?
No, it hasn't, Ken. I mean, what he's particularly avoiding telling you is all these figures for cycling, the number of cyclists, they don't count the figures on a wet February morning. All these hundreds and thousands of people he's got cycling are all out when the sun's shining.
Yeah.
The reality is that London is not some tropical climate, and for a large percentage of the year it's wet and damp and cold, and then the cycling figures don't add up. He's also avoided telling you about the banned turns that he's going to bring in, that are going to involve quite lengthy detours. For example, as I say, coming from Westminster Bridge, you can no longer turn onto the embankment, so you're now going to go all the way around Parliament Square into traffic. And as he rightly said, these are not private motorists he's inconveniencing. This is working London. These are commercial vehicles. These are people in cabs. These are working London. That's why every business in London, from the Chamber of Commerce to Canary Wharf to now, I understand, the City of London and City of Westminster are now in serious reservations. Westfield shopping centres at both ends. Everybody is now standing up to what this is. This scheme is not suited to London. London, the reason that they're doing it on Upper Thames Street is because it's a TfL road. It's a simple, easy solution for them because they control it. What's needed is segregated cycle lanes, but they could run them along the South Bank in front of, ITV there all the way along. Plenty of space, but of course it involves buying land, it involves a lot more work. And Andrew has gone for the simple scheme to get in before Boris departs. Because the reality is that the current mayor transport legacy, after cancelling your bridge, is basically a fairground ride down at Greenwich that he calls the cable car. And this cycle scheme, that is going to be his transport legacy. He knows it's going to be an embarrassment, and that's why they're trying to rush this through.
Andrew, you get the last word before we have to go to the break for the travel news.
It's really important that we not let that kind of thing, that essentially what Steve McNamara said there again was again untrue. Having got the size of the superhighway wrong by 50% in his first contribution, he's now saying that no businesses support it. That's absolutely untrue. There's about 40 major London businesses who've already come out and support, including Deloitte, Knight Frank, Euromoney, Simon & Schuster, lots of big hospitals, huge names are coming out in support of this. And so far we haven't had any specific individual business coming out against. We've had London First expressing some reservations, but saying they're supported in principle. We've had the city saying the same thing. And you're right about the ban turns. That's the city's concern, the ban turns. And I think we can do something about most of those because, again, contrary to what Steve McNamara says, there aren't that many of them.
OK, well, there you are, Andrew. Thank you very much for that. That was the Mayor's cycling advisor, Andrew Gilligan, and also Steve McNamara, General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association. I suspect a lot of this will come as a big surprise to a lot of people, particularly those who drive in from East London. It came as a big surprise to me. I mean, did you know, Kenneth, that all traffic apart from buses is going to be banned from Tottenham Court Road, including taxis?
Well, I want to see the black cab trade preserved. I think that the threat from Uber, and I'm working with people who are coming up with an alternative app that will make it easier for people to share a cab and help bring the price down. I think red buses, black cabs are a real part of defining London. So I would be very dubious about taking black cabs or buses out of any road.
Don't you think the problem is, I mean, I just happen to see this because a cabbie passed to me their magazine, their newspaper, and I read it. Yeah, I consider myself reasonably well informed, but I think a lot of this stuff is being slipped through by, dear old Andrew, who does seem a bit glinty-eyed on this stuff. You would probably say not only on that stuff, but, it's like this is being done under some broad base. I mean, the fact the Mayor said he was going to improve access to cycling didn't mean we signed up to all this stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be voted on.
I seem to recall you said he wouldn't stand for Parliament until the end of his term, but there we are.
It doesn't have to be voted on.
No, this is the weakness of the Mayor. This is why I didn't want to wear. I wanted the council. The Mayor has the absolute power to do this. The Assembly doesn't get a say. The public doesn't get a say.
That is ridiculous.
I know. Blair was in love with the American presidency. All power in one individual.
But even he has to be endorsed, by advise and consent. Anyway, there we are. What do you make of all of this? Give us a call, 0345.